In my 12th, I kind of got an average score, and I thought, oh, मेरे साथ ऐसे नहीं हो सकता.
Yeah.
And that's because in all possibility, I've always been doing good. In school, I was into theaters, drama, table tennis, sports,
Wow.
everything, and kind of representing school and doing good.
Right.
So I'm like, this can't happen. This is maybe something wrong.
Hmm.
So interestingly, my journey started when I moved from my bubble of knowing everything and being everywhere. He knew nothing about me because I was meeting him after a few years.
Sure.
And he said, okay, this is what you're going through your life.
So it psyched you.
Actually, to an extent, he's like, tomorrow you're going to meet someone. Avoid meeting her tomorrow. I'm like, okay.
Wow, to that extent.
To that extent.
There was a yogi who committed to one aspect of Shiva, which was called Alak Niranjan. Alak means that which is not perceivable, that we cannot see, hear, smell, taste. Niranjan means that which is colorless. That which is colorless, you can anyway not see, hear, smell, taste. It is not perceivable and it's colorless.
Welcome guys. Today we have a very special guest with us, Abhigna Vaidya.
He is a corporate analyst and also a meditator for more than a decade. And he's here to take us through his enlightening journey of meditation and yoga. He's also a member of Isha now and a disciple of Sadguru. So we can't wait to dive into this.
Thank you so much. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Thank you so much for calling here.
A warm welcome to you.
Thank you. So,
yes.
This line, before you begin, I would like to kind of give a word of thanks to you for calling me here. So honestly, when I was asked to be here, I was like, I have no background of, anything whatsoever, not an authorized person to talk about Isha. I'm just an Isha volunteer who works in capacity of taking Sadguru's work in whatever capacity, to the audience. And Nehha, I've been following you through the wonderful book that you have written. I'm almost halfway on the third volume right now. It started with Flower of Creation, and very excited to read about human metrics as well. So bumped into Nehha through a conversation, and now here sitting in front of her, talking with her. So thank you once again for calling here.
Most welcome, and it's a delight for me. Especially meeting a very wise reader and getting such wonderful reviews. I think it just makes me feel very empowered and blessed.
Pleasure is mine.
Yes. So, Abhi, like I call you,
For sure.
as a friend. Can you please take us through your journey, where it began? We all have our awakening points.
Sure.
So, how, like, from your childhood, like, was there always a quest or?
Absolutely. So, to just give a brief background of me, so I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. I come from kind of a middle class family where we've been taught religiousness in a couple of areas of our lifestyle.
Right.
My grandmom, she was very religious, and I used to see her because my mom and dad, they both were working. So, grown up in front of her, always curious about how things are happening, what she's doing with those kumkum and haldi, maybe at the umbra of the house, or the way she follows fast, do Satyanarayana, all these things. So the kind of liking for religious rituals was always there, but then it was more for mechanical, as
Got it.
as we used to see it back then.
Yeah.
You know, in our back in teenage days, we don't care about what's happening around us. Busy playing, studying and those
Just
things.
focused on the prasad. What are we
Exactly,
eating
right.
today?
I remember I used to take, my daddy used to keep, we call it aragya, it's like a 4-bucketed kind of a container
Okay.
where she would keep the kumkum haldi, we call it chokha, right? It's like rice,
Chawal? Yeah.
chawal.
Yeah.
And a 50 paise coin she would always donate it to cow for the grass,
Oh,
etc.
wow.
And the whole interest for me was to take those 50 paise and go to the school canteen and get those chocolates out for me. So that was the interest for me. Like, okay, fine.
I can so relate to that.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's how it was earlier. Life was smooth. I kind of scored. I topped in my school in my 10th.
Wow.
And
Scholar. You're
back
sitting with a
then.
scholar.
So, but then post that, life started showing its color. In my 12th, I kind of got an average score, and I thought, oh, मेरे साथ ऐसे नहीं हो सकता.
Yeah.
And that's because in all possibility, I've always been doing good. In school, I was into theaters, drama, table tennis, sports,
Wow.
everything, and kind of representing school and doing good.
Right.
Things. I'm like, this can't happen. This is maybe something wrong.
Hmm.
So interestingly, my journey started when I moved from my bubble of knowing everything and being everywhere. And I got my jolt in my 12th when I got just 60% in science, followed by CET score.
No, very normal for me, but you have to
For science to get into engineering and MBA,
Okay.
you need good score. I mean, to
Yeah,
get into engineering, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not done. So that was a time, a kind of two-way offshoot happened out of me, I would feel. I would say. First was the intervention, cut this, yeah. The first one was, I met one of my uncle,
Right.
was an astrologer.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that it existed back then.
Okay.
So it was my first rendezvous with an astrologer, and we were just meeting for a gathering, and he came, he sat, and he's like, okay, he just saw the time.
Uh-huh.
He knew nothing about me because I was meeting him after a few years.
Sure.
And he said, okay, this is what you're going through your life.
So it's psyched you. like.
Absolutely. To an extent, he's like, tomorrow you're going to meet someone. Avoid meeting her tomorrow. I'm like, okay,
Wow. To that
to
extent.
that extent. And that was the first, hit on my, like, something like this exists. And that was quite, new for me. Subsequently, I was struggling to get into engineering colleges. I had to go through, paid quota, and I was going through that struggle as well.
Sure.
So I'm like, life is not fair.
Mhm.
The people used to think earlier, and you have to pay a lot for the same. So that was the time I came across Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. It was
The
apparently
legend.
the legend, absolutely. And it came to me because I had gone to take some engineering books. I just got the admission in engineering. I gone to take the engineering books from the bookshop,
Okay.
and that's where it was kept.
Mm.
And I found, Paramahansa Yogananda's picture intriguing. So
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is something. Unki aankhon mein kuch hai types,
Wow.
We generally see that for girl, uski aankhon mein kuch. But that I found in his eyes.
Divine romance.
Absolutely. Wow, nice one. So, and that was a time I'm like, okay, let me just pick this up. I read the book, and then the moment I read it, I was totally sweet into it.
Yeah.
The whole idea of, the world, how it works on the materialistic level, vis-a-vis how it works on the spiritual level, was very different than what we used to think. Of course, for a teenage mind, it'd be too much to accumulate and
Yeah.
assimilate.
Yeah.
So when I read about it, the entire journey of how he lost his mother,
Mm.
he was, used to seek masters thereafter, and the way Shri Yukteswar Giri, his immediate guru,
Yeah.
he met him and placed, his hand on his forehead,
Yeah.
and he could remember his past birth.
Oh yes.
And,
a profound
yes.
turning point. Yeah.
And he was also mentioning about how intense that gaze was and how he felt within him. I'm like, this is something,
Yeah.
that's very kind of shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the first go, I'm sure you felt very paranormal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
you absorb it.
I absorbed, yes. And then I was always in look for such guru who would come and touch my forehead and make me, don't take me wrong.
Enlighten.
So I used to
Let's
tell
go
my,
with the shot.
absolutely. So I used to tell my mother that मुझे सन्यासी बनना है, and they're like, I used to do that.
Shocker.
Absolutely. So, and then, then again the astrology was, so all this quest of knowing what lies ahead and what lies in the total journey in totality. That was the time I started learning astrology as one part. And then the spirituality is another part.
Nice.
So then I learned about science of Kriya Yoga. That kind of boiled down to the yogic system.
Got it.
Got into basic yoga. I did the Santa Cruz. I went to Santa Cruz Yoga Institute and learned about yoga. Picked up the basic yogasana courses.
Right.
Somehow I started relating more with the devotion because that's how back then my grandmom was into Devi sadhana. At the same time, even Paramahansa Yogananda had Mahakali and
Yeah, he
that
talks a
stuff,
lot
right?
about it.
So I'm like, and I could relate it so well and so easily that I got into that process in a way.
Yeah.
And then it started going since then, and there was never looking back per se. At the same time, as we say in Sanskrit, like Kalaya Tasmai Namaha, is like just go down with the time because
I love that.
time was always there to take test of yours. I got a year drop in engineering, so 12 less marks were not enough. I used to travel from where I stay in Vilepale to New Bombay, and I was in a very hap Mitibai college. From there to a New Bombay college where it was absolute cultural shock for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
No pretty girls.
no pretty girls, just 6 girls in the class. I regret that. And on top of it, my first day when I went to the college, I saw like about 50 students, no professor, and a stray dog at the podium. I'm like, मैं कहाँ आ गया? So
And are you a dog lover?
I was not back then. So I would like to talk about it, the face,
Okay,
the fear
sure.
thing for sure, right? So I became dog lover last 4 or 5 years ago.
Got it.
So so from there, I was kind of thinking what's happening, and that again went further deep to the astrology piece.
Sure.
I learned more advanced functions of astrology like Prashna Kundali, and
Wow.
it's a horary chart system where you learn about the time at which you get the question in your mind. At the same time, you can also predict from someone else's who is sitting there. But the only condition is they should have a genuine thought about that thing in their head.
Got
And you can. So those things help me understanding the nuances of human brains. And then one led to other, right? That kind of gave an interest in astronomy. And then
that's the next level.
absolutely. A lot of journey, right? So from there, even the Sanskrit part, because this Brihat Parashar Vara Shastra, which is the actual Sanskrit anuvad of the astrology, exists in that.
Wow.
Jaimini Samhita. And I'm from a vernacular medium, I'm from Gujarati medium, so we had Sanskrit in school, which I could use it for the betterment. And then I read about it. Then I picked up Shiv Mahapuran, Vishnu Mahapuran, where there was also mentions of planetary positions, and then I realized that what probably with due respect Galileo Copernicus knew few centuries ago, we knew way time ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
that's the secret, right?
Absolutely.
I refer to our Vedas.
True.
And, but anyway, that's whole another topic.
Absolutely. So that's how it started. And then it's a journey, right? So whenever I used to go abroad, so there was a time where for almost 3.5, 4 years, I would spend a lot of time going abroad for my work trips. Southeast Asia, Middle East, United States, and part Europe.
Yeah.
And as I would go there more and when I would meet couch surfers, so I used to use couch surfing application, which is used to meet people from different places and countries.
Right.
And when I talk about these things, right, and the response that we would get from them made me believe a lot in our culture, in our system, the profoundness that we carry. So, for example, just I would like to quote an anecdote here, where there was this Slovakian journalist, a freelance journalist in Southeast Asia, settled for a long time. Not able to recollect her name, but yeah, she would write lot many articles on Southeast Asia, they applied, including South Asia, including India.
Got it.
I would read it sometime and not so happy with the reading that she would give. So I got to know that she is in Bangkok, and I was traveling back then, and I wrote to her
Okay.
that I'm coming in your city.
Uh-huh.
It would be great if I can get some 20 minutes, 30 minutes of yours.
Yeah. Always good to catch
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
the way I caught up with you. So,
My delight.
so it so happened that we started a conversation with her. She had given me just 15 minutes, like, I don't have time.
Hmm.
And we ended up talking for 4 hours.
Wow.
So,
That's your effect. I'm testimony to that.
oh yeah, it just flows sometime.
Yeah.
So-
it's the energy connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in her case, she was so she had so many questions about dowry system, vegetarianism, the concept of non-indulgence in sensual things, or the sensory things rather,
Got it.
and a lot of religious touch to things,
Sure.
and
Sure.
the chaos of our country, that they perceive from outside world,
Yeah.
and to an extent, kind of guided by the Western influence or
Yeah.
Western impressions what we have, and kind of as I was trying to answer in whatever way. Of course, I'm swaying away from our conversation, but I just
No. I mean, I think it's a very profound anecdote because, it talks about how the Westerners look at
true.
Indian religion or
Right.
spirituality. So I think, yeah, please carry on.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So once I had this profound discussion with her, she was kind of happy and convinced in a way, to an extent that she wrote an article later in Coconuts magazine in Bangkok.
Wow.
I wish I could retrieve and send you the archive, but
I would love that.
the thing I liked about her is there was a German guy
Uh-huh.
who she called later on because it was almost 1 in the night, and we were discussing. Me and we were discussing, and he was just listening. And in the end, he said, "Okay, dude, I've been to India."
Okay.
And the good thing with them is they read a lot. They won't go
yeah,
by the
yeah.
right. So he had traveled all the way from Rameshwaram to Kumbh Mela in unreserved train, sitting in just one compartment.
That's what they love to do in India,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
And he was very, confident of it, saying that, and this was this is a statement which I like to quote every time I meet someone. First, when I said to that female that maybe if I see the same thing back in our country, if I kind of try to convince them, they won't be that convinced.
Yeah. Unless they experience.
Unless they experience.
Yeah.
And the German guy, he's like, you know what, you guys are way advanced in, at least in physics, maths, and other science practices, which includes yoga. That time Europe was just a jungle.
Wow.
I'm like, if you see this, kind of, he should have been called if I was in a contact for the podcast, and 1,000, 10,000 more people would agree to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a validation,
Absolutely.
right? In a way. Yeah.
So maybe it was over the period of time systematic, kind of trying to take the impression or our culture and ethos out, and that's why.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, scientists realizing
Absolutely.
that there is spirituality is beyond science.
True.
Right? And just because they don't have a name for energy, they're calling it dark matter.
True.
Right? So there is always going to be a point, especially I think the planet moving from Piscean to Aquarian,
True.
or let's say from Kalyug to the Satyug.
True.
So yeah, I mean that explains that now finally everybody is accepting, validating, acknowledging the fact that
True.
yeah.
So again, digressing, and would just like to tell you this anecdote, right? Where, for example, in astronomy, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter, as we know, is
Yeah.
the largest planet with a huge
Yeah.
gravitation force.
Yeah.
And the way this gravitation force acts is, whichever substances, which are meteor, asteroids, whichever is falling and it's supposed to go and hit the Earth because of its
Right.
gravitation,
Right.
it takes it into itself.
Okay. It kind of
Kind
it's
of
like a
because
magnet.
it does amazing gravitation force. I mean, phenomenal gravitation force.
Mhm.
Back in our culture,
Yeah.
Jupiter is known as Guru.
Yeah.
And in our culture, we always believe that Guru is someone who takes Shishya's karma
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
prevent. So that's kind of a profound area of spirituality, but otherwise also through guiding him or the disciple or whoever reaches up to that guru would always help navigating the path
Got it.
and kind of save that person from hitting the rock bottom, kind of getting into another
Yeah.
path. So
Reduce the intensity.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's so kind of relatable in a way, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful, I think, metaphor in a way.
So
For a guru. Amazing. Yeah.
So it was back then. I met these people and I started having more respect for our culture,
Sure.
understanding that we have discovered a lot. We knew almost everything, but that's when it comes to Vedas.
Yeah.
A direct download of cosmic knowledge, just through a state of meditativeness. So
It's like the strongest Wi-Fi ever.
absolutely. Well, there's a huge sadhana that which was required, but for sure you kind of it's just there it's just there as we talk about subtle bodies, it's just there. So yeah, and then so education was one part.
Sure.
Then come the relationship aspect where you build hope somewhere else, somewhere where you feel okay, you kind of get wrong. When you live with this person, you want to probably settle down with that person, and you come across that path where maybe it may not work. Such situations.
Sorry, but coming back to astrology, I just want to take you from there.
Okay.
So astrology led you to astronomy, right? That's
Yeah.
so was it just out of curiosity for your own personal knowledge, or were you planning like, okay, let me also provide or offer it as a service to people? What was your thought on that?
Well, so my whole interest in astrology was purely, because of that incident that took place in my life, and then I met another astrologer after a few months, and he said something else, and then the confusion. I'm like, what is the absolute truth? मुझे समझ नहीं दो. So
Let me dive.
exactly. So then I started diving into it, and at the same time, again, kind of sounds a bit, psychic in a way. When my dad used to send me to the updates of past books.
Okay.
To the nearby
to the bank,
benches.
yeah.
Yeah. So that one particular bank I used to go, a guy who he was an uncle, in his early 40s, would kind of sit and do that update the passport. Back then he had said, we would just get into a casual chat. I was in my 8th grade back then.
Wow.
So
Pretty
and he just said that people would find their way through you, and especially
Okay.
you will get into something. Even if you don't know things, you will tell and it will work. Okay, this is not on my statement. I don't still feel it works that way, but that's what his words.
Well, what it was a reference point for you to connect the dots.
Correct, right?
Right? I'm sure.
So he had said that earlier, that had said that people from Western countries especially would come and find their path through you, and I got certain experiences like that.
Beautiful.
And then he said that you will learn things, which I was not even thinking back then because it was wiped off. And then it just suddenly came my way.
Got it.
And then when I was struggling to get the answers, not just of day-to-day mundane life of my career, my professional life, my education, my marital path, but also the whole existential path, right? Where what am I up to? What is end of the day, the cast that we chart is nothing but the snapshot of your Sanchit Prarabdha karma. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how the celestial planets are placed.
Sure.
So when they are placed that way, that means you have come up with certain prarabdha. And you should know in which area you should kind of work in this birth so that your subsequent gati happens better.
Got it.
So that was the reason I kind of felt, okay, I should try to help out people in case if they are stuck in these parts, which kind of translated later into their personal life, professional life, etc.
And more pro bono, not as a profession.
Not as a profession.
Just whoever comes.
Absolutely. So till date, I do the same. I just do it out of hobby, and I restrict it to very few people who are actually looking the deeper meaning of their life and try them out that way.
Amazing.
Sure.
So after astronomy, what is next? So I also remember you talking about the profoundness of Sanskrit in your life.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say on that?
Right. So it is an extension or a convolution from astrology rather, because there are remedial measures. I had read Sanskrit Sanskrit granthas for astrology, and then they give remedies. Most of the remedies are also to do with some worshipping of deities.
Sure.
And the energy associated with that planet, for example.
Right.
Like if Venus is there, you will do feminine energy, you will do Devi Sadhana, for example. Or if Mars is like a fiery planet filled rich with irons, you will do Hanuman.
Yeah.
So it was very logical.
Yeah.
And then there are stotras and thing which was crafted very wisely. So I started getting more into that part. That what is the reason behind casting this sutra in such a way?
Got it.
For example, Shri Rudram, right, which consists of two parts. It is basically from Krishna Yajurveda. The whole tattva of Om Namah Shivaya, the Panchakshari Stotram, Panchakshari Mantra, and also the Triambakam, the
Om
Triambakam, that is Mahamrutyunjay Mantra. Both of these find their place in the Shri Rudram, which is made up of Namakam and Chamakam, two part.
Okay.
Namakam is about you just bow down to a different form of Shiva. I'll go on Shiva as well. But it's a different form of Shiva.
Got it.
When we say Shiva, it's just the matter that is around, right? So just to give you an example, you are going down in that Rudra Prashna. You go down even to the pure form of water in the lake. You're also going down to the impurest water which is coming from, a bad nala in a way. That's how they've mentioned it.
Okay.
Namakupyacha Katyacha, that's like you are going down to the water which is there in the well. You're also going down to the water which is flowing out, just outside your house, something like
that.
So,
wow, that's profound.
Right. And then, of course, you are going down to the elements and people around and within you as well. So the story goes this way that it is kind of decided to calm down the angry Shiva, which actually that's how it's called as Rudra Prashna. Rudra is like it's the one with the fire.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But in a way, it is just going down to the nature around us in whatever way. Where
like the fire and the water thing, right?
Fire, water, all elements.
Comes in
Absolutely,
that.
yes.
Makes sense.
So, and then once that finishes, Rudra is right there to give you the blessings. And it comes the second part, which is again of 11 verses. It's a huge, it takes 45 minutes to read both of them. Known as Chamak Prashna. Chamakam is like, Chame is the recitation that they use. Like, for example, it starts with simple as, Asti Chame, Anga Chame. So basically, you're asking for a good body, good physique, good bones, even, nice purified blood. From there, it starts. It goes to, Ema Shame, Artha Shame, Iti Shame is like, you need necessary income flow, you need good, happy marital life. All these things comes.
The materials.
Material side.
Yeah.
Then also you're asking for, I need a good place. I need a good place with mountains around. I need those mountains. I need forest. I need fruits in that tree, on that trees. I also need a good lake around, so that all this nature I need to be taken. I don't need around me to bless me.
Correct.
Then you go further. Then you ask that all these things I want is for yajna. So it's like. It's like Ayu Yagnena Kalpatam, Atma Yagnena Kalpatam, Mano Yagnena Kalpatam. It's like all this thing which I need is for the sacred fire. Because in our culture we believe that whatever we do on earth, if we use certain mantras in a certain frequency with the actual element, it's kind of cleansing the element and then asking for things, right?
Pure science.
With herbs. So you kind of get those blessings. Then you're kind of also taking care of the things around you.
Got it.
And then it ends with kind of a numerology, numbers, I would say, not numerology. Those numbers are said to be traced to the DNA sequencing in a way.